Let's talk about number one. Now, of course, my answers aren't going to be exhaustive. I'm sure there's going to be other things we could add to these ideas, and you probably have some ideas of yourself, of your own, sorry. So, if we're talking about tree diagrams, what's the benefit? So, the benefit to me is that a tree diagram allows you to organize your work. It allows for your communication to be clear. And the other thing is, I don't know if you've ever tried problem solving a probability situation using a list, but that would be like in this Naya, Jules, Leo, Sally situation, where you kind of wrote out every one of them like this. Naya, Jules, Leo, Sally. Okay, Naya, Jules, Sally, Leo. And then you just kept writing this big long list. To me, that becomes very, very confusing, and it's very easy for you to miss one of the possible combinations that exists. So I would say that using a tree diagram allows you to be more thorough in your work. It's going to make sure that you don't miss a possible arrangement that exists. Okay, important tips for creating a tree diagram. You saw that I needed to walk away from creating it on the iPad with my stylus because I just could not be neat and tidy. So, being able to have your work be neat is really important. If you're someone who just jumbles your writing all over the page, you don't use your lines or anything like that, you're going to struggle with tree diagrams because you're going to get confused as to where things should connect and where they should be. So, being neat and tidy is really important, but making sure that you have the appropriate space to do so. So in my example, when I went back and I did it by hand, I actually counted out how many lines on my page do I need for each of those seat one scenarios. And I found that I needed 6 lines on my page. So I counted out 6 lines and I started making mine out neat and tidy. So appropriate space is huge because things can very easily become jumbled together. If I had originally just written like seat one as Naya, Jules, Leo, Sally this close together, it would have been impossible to have had things come off of it and then not intersect over in the other side of the page. So spacing yourself out is really important. The last thing I want to stress is use the appropriate tools. So use colored pencils or highlighters to highlight branches that are favorable. Use a ruler to connect things so that your lines don't get jumbled or mixed up along your page. Use the lines that are on your page. I used graph paper because that's what I had handy, but so you don't need to use that, but just a lined piece of paper so you're able to write on the lines and keep things appropriately um, distance from each other, from being on top to underneath, is something that I find helpful when I'm making a tree diagram. So again, this isn't an exhaustive list of things that could exist that are beneficial or could help you out when you're making them, but these are just some things that come to my mind as I'm thinking about this.